Welcome to the weekend. I'm Eugene Daniels along with Jonathan Capehart. Jackie Alemany is on parental leave. We begin this morning on day 13 since the Trump administration pissed off his MAGA base over the Jeffrey Epstein files, with no signs that Donald Trump has been able to regain control. In what appears to be an attempt to placate his supporters, Trump's DOJ asked a federal judge on Friday to unseal grand jury testimony related to Jeffrey Epstein and his close confidant, Ghislaine Maxwell. Not only do judges rarely agree to release such materials, which the law requires remain secret in almost all cases, but it would amount to just a fraction of the evidence collected in the investigation, a far cry from what his base has asked for. And after being besieged by increasingly bad news related to Epstein, Trump filed a libel lawsuit on Friday seeking at least $10 billion with the B dollars in damages against the parent company of the Wall Street Journal News Corp, its publisher Dow Jones, two reporters for the newspaper, News Corp chief executive Robert Thomas, and its owner Rupert Murdoch. He's suing everybody. The suit follows Trump's denial of the Journal's report that he had written a racy birthday letter to Epstein back in 2003. It's the morning, so we'll keep it cute. That the paper says featured a hand-drawn outline of a naked woman with Trump's signature placed below her waist, with a typewritten note that concluded with "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." I wonder what that secret was. The Journal said the letter, along with other birthday messages for Epstein, were among the documents examined by DOJ officials who investigated Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell years ago, according to people who have reviewed the pages. The lawsuit cites the fact that the Journal did not include a picture of the letter or the drawing in the article, claiming it failed to do so, quote, because no authentic letter or drawing exists, and that defendants concocted this story to malign President Trump's character and integrity to deceptively portray him in a false light. And late last night, a spokesperson for Dow Jones released a statement saying, quote, "We have full confidence in the rigor and accuracy of our reporting and will vigorously defend against any lawsuit." We all hope that defense is showing that picture. Joining us now, MSNBC senior White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard, MSNBC legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Christy Greenberg, and former GOP communications director Tara Setmeyer. She is the co-founder and CEO of the Seneca Project. I want to start with you, Vaughn, because every single person I have talked to around Trump, in the White House, in the administration, in Florida, who has talked to Trump, says that he's as angry as they've ever seen. And I keep asking why, because this is a man that gets angry very fast. And what they tell me is that he's riled up because of the lack of control and his inability to pull this back. Like I said in that intro, we're 13 days into this.
And it's not like members of Congress are running out in front of cameras. It's not like his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is holding a press conference saying the president has done nothing wrong. Mm-hmm. Guys, there's nothing else to see. Instead, she went to Alcatraz on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. This is a moment where the president is vulnerable, and he is facing questions at the White House, shouted questions about what else may be out there. And it even led to the point where there was, you could say, some concession. Mm-hmm. I mean, a smaller one from the president calling for the Department of Justice to unseal these grand jury transcripts. Of course, that's not all the evidence. Right. It's not all the Epstein files. But at some point, we are not used to seeing the president concede any ground, and he actually did in this case.
Yeah. Christy? Let's talk the legal aspects here, because I found it fascinating that the president, when he put out that social media post saying, I command AG Bondi to release pertinent grand jury testimony. Please explain to viewers, if they don't already know, why the word pertinent is significant here and why the focus on grand jury testimony is significant here. This might be a concession by the president, but it's a concession with a small c.
Absolutely. So the grand jury testimony that they are seeking is testimony in the Southern District of New York in connection with charges that were brought against Epstein and Maxwell. And apparently they're also looking in Florida to unseal grand jury testimony as well. But the grand jury presentation there would have focused on all the evidence they wanted to show the guilt of Epstein and Maxwell. It is I feel extremely confident that you are not going to see anything in that grand jury presentation if it were unsealed, which is a big if. I actually think doubtful. But if it were unsealed, there wouldn't be anything about Donald Trump in there. And one reason I feel very confident that is the case, I went back last night and I was looking at my former boss, former SDNY U.S. Attorney Jeff Berman's book, Hold the Line. He has chapters about Epstein in there. And one thing he said was that before the Epstein indictment was brought, he never briefed AG Barr about the investigation. If there were going to be major revelations about Donald Trump, who at the time was the president, in a grand jury presentation about sex trafficking, that would have required them to go and brief the Attorney General. So the fact that they did not do that tells me very confidently that you are not going to see anything in that grand jury transcript about Donald Trump. And also, as to his base, highly doubtful you're going to see a lot that would incriminate other people, because that was not their focus. Their focus was on these individuals in those two presentations. But just taking a step back, I would say it is unlikely that you're going to get the names of victims or the names of confidential witnesses or other third parties, if they even exist in those grand jury transcripts. Unlikely that you get them, just because it is so difficult to unseal grand jury transcripts that are secret. Public interest in a scandal is not enough alone. You have to have more. And these people have a significant privacy interest, safety interest, and reputational interest in not having their names revealed. So this is before Judge Berman. He's a very seasoned senior judge. I don't see him unsealing all of it. Maybe he unseals parts of it that were already redundant and are already public, but he's not going to unseal all of these grand jury transcripts. And to your point, again, this is a small piece of what is there. And there are other parts of this, I think, that could potentially mention Donald Trump. It's just not going to be here. It's a red herring.
And that's the key thing. The grand jury testimony is secret and under seal, and it's not like a public record that you just go out and hand out willy-nilly.
Right.
But I digress.
Tara, one of the things that's been so, I guess, interesting about this is one of the only times where we've seen an extended period of time where Donald Trump's base has been upset with him, continue to be upset. They've talked about, in different interviews, feeling betrayed in many ways. What do you think it is about this scandal, this issue, that is getting them so riled up in their inability to kind of let it go and forgive their guy?
This is the only interesting thing. There's a lot of interesting things about this entire debacle that's happening. The dynamic is quite fascinating because, like you said, it's the first time that Donald Trump's BS is BS to his base that they don't want to hear. He's lied to his base multiple times. He lies to them all the time. He's incapable of really telling the truth about, frankly, anything. But this is the first time that the lie isn't what they want to hear. The MAGA math ain't mathin' for them. And they're going, wait a minute. Hold on, you promised us that when you got into power, you'd put your people in the Justice Department and we would uncover this huge cabal. You have to remember there's a large portion of Trump's MAGA base that came from QAnon. And the QAnon conspiracy was all about sex trafficking and pedophiles and this weird underground, liberal Democrat cabal of pedophiles and all this kind of other wacky stuff. And Epstein was at the epicenter of that. So they were waiting. And so you had his own people telling his MAGA base that they had it on their desk. Pam Bondi said it on Fox News. And there's multiple documented interviews and statements where this was promised to them. So when it didn't come, it didn't make sense. And then Trump changed the story multiple times because it didn't make sense and the MAGA base wasn't accepting it. So for this, that's why he's throwing this temper tantrum. That's why he's tired of having to defend Pam Bondi, according to reports, because he's like, okay, I've had enough of this. What do you mean it's not working? He's used to getting his own way with them. This judge this idea of, well, we'll send it to the, release the grand jury stuff. Again, that's a distraction because he knows now that the foil will become the judge. The judge is probably not going to release it for all the reasons we just heard. So then Trump can turn the ire to the judge. It's this, activist judge. It's not fair, whatever, and take the heat off of him. So this entire fight here is a problem for Trump because this is the first time he's ever attacked his own supporters. The fact that he's gone after them and called them stupid and weaklings, and well, we can debate the veracity of that or not, but coming from Trump, that is a little different. Him going after his own people, saying, I don't need you anymore. I think for folks that are in a cultish type of, personality death cult like MAGA is, that's a little jarring for them because they're like, oh, wait a minute. Why is your leader coming for us? We've been loyal soldiers this whole time. And that's where you start to see the cracks in this. So how Trump gets out of this, I'm not quite sure because the drip, drip, drip is happening. And we're seeing more and more reports about Trump's involvement. It's a little difficult to deny all of this and call it a hoax when how is it a hoax when your own people said it existed? So were you lying to me then or are you lying to me now? And when people start to awaken at that, it's a little difficult to put that genie back in the bottle.
Your own people, and you are one of the people who was fanning this. Christy, before we have to let you go and go to a break, I have one more legal question for you, and that is this. I'm curious. The President of the United States is suing the company that owns the Wall Street Journal and the Wall Street Journal
and the reporters.
This is unprecedented. This is territory we've never been in before. Might there be an Office of Legal Counsel memo or a DOJ memo that will govern how the president operates in this new territory? Will we get to a point where we find out that you can't depose a sitting president, or a sitting president isn't allowed to go through discovery as long as he is president of the United States?
I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? He filed the lawsuit. He says that he has $10 billion in reputational and financial damages. If you're going to go through with that, you then need to be sitting through the process. Will they try to come up with reasons to shield him throughout this and say he can't sit for a deposition as a sitting president? He's too busy. It would be too much of an issue for him to do that. I'm sure they will, but then you can't file a lawsuit because that's not fair to the other side. So again, he's got to make a choice here. I think he's hoping that they'll cave. Right? And they'll capitulate like many of the other organizations will, or issue some kind of an apology to him. And the fact that they knew days before that this lawsuit was threatened and they held it and they clearly vetted this, I am sure, and they still went ahead with it, tells me that they have the best defense to defamation you can buy, and that is the truth.
I have the receipts. Christy Greenberg,